It's a statement, some 24 paragraphs, folks, as you join us for our special report this evening. Nicola Swan of Standard & Poor's, and as Michael mentioned, John Chambers, clearly out of their New York office, David Beers out of their London office, write a very important 24 paragraphs for the nation tonight. And with me, Dan Alpert, Westwood Capital. Dan, the one thing I circled was a contentious and fitful process. I think that was what Barry and Nouriel were talking about. What will be the contentious and fitful process on the Sunday morning talk shows and on Monday morning on Bloomberg television?
This is a spanking to the Congress of the United States.
We're in the timeout chair.
Yeah, this is a timeout chair. Effectively, what S&P has said, and I'll quote from their release, it says, because we believe that the prolonged controversy over raising the statutory debt ceiling and the related financial policy debate indicate that the further near-term progress containing the growth in public spending, especially on entitlements or on reaching an agreement, is very unlikely.
Let's start with that distinction. We had the opera of last weekend that Barry was so critical of, and so many others. And then we jumped to a responsible discussion of entitlements. I spoke with Alan Simpson earlier this week. We tried that with a commission. How do we jumpstart a repair of our credit rating by finally addressing, just to give you an easy one, you look healthy tonight, Dan. How do we get out to the length of Social Security, that moving the age of Social Security on even a year or two?
Well, since I know I'm going to be working a lot longer than I thought I was, you know, and I'm not surprised that that's going to be the outcome. I think my mother, who is in her 70s, late 70s, told me a long time ago, don't expect very much. It won't be there for you. Yeah. And I certainly have every expectation that Social Security will be delayed. But let's face it, we have a health care issue and we have a Social Security issue. And those two issues are relatively intractable because of their intense popularity amongst exactly the same portion of the polity that would like us to reduce our indebtedness. And so we have this very, very difficult situation where no one wants to show up on the Hill and say, by the way, I want to kill Medicare, I want to kill Social Security, I really want to take these cuts. Right? And at the same time, you know, it says that we need austerity and all the other stuff.
Does this document this evening provide a marginal change in the debate?
Well, it certainly, as I said before, it's a spanking. So at the end of the day, yes, it must, because people are saying, you know, gee, other people really take this seriously. Notwithstanding that, and let me say something very important, nothing changes on Monday. At the end of the day, the United States of America has the ability to pay its debts. Just because we have an internecine squabble amongst our politicians doesn't mean that we won't pay our debts. At the end of the day, we will. And I view this move by S&P as, I know they are giving them every benefit of the doubt, and I know that they actually think that they're doing the right thing relative to their view of their responsibility to the world. But at the end of the day, this is a meaningless gesture, and I am very convinced that the United States of America's credit rating will be restored.
$14 trillion economy. We have a mass. You know, forget about Newtonian physics. Can we do some Newtonian physics on a Friday evening? I think we should. We have a mass. Rho equals MV. Right. We've got a certain weight of a $14 trillion economy. I believe it was Nouriel that was talking about the demographic strength, that demographic distinction of the United States. If we look at that, that's got to give us a confidence that we can get back here sooner than many other countries that we're compared to this evening.
Yeah, that we have over-indebted ourselves, both on the public and the private horizon. We've gone from $25 trillion of total outstanding debt in the year 2000 to 52 at its peak in February of 2008. That is inexcusable. At the end of the day, we have the ability to do what's necessary to suck in our gut and actually get rid of that debt.
Dan Alpert with us from Westwood Capital. The Fed will have a statement at 9:30 this evening, the central bank of the United States. He is an economist, Joseph Brusuelas. He bowled me over this week with a comment on hysteresis, which is the persistency of our unemployment. Joe Brusuelas, are we going to have a persistency of credit rating downgrades? Is there one more after this?
You know, I don't think so. I think that this has been priced in by the markets. Now, certainly it was a surprise that it came tonight, but markets were expecting this. You know, and I think in the next 24 to 48 hours, we're likely to hear from the President of the United States. And I want to ask you, Tom, and Dan, too, what do you think the President has to say that will actually cause markets to not sell off, or at least instill a necessary bout of confidence, or do we need to hear from Ben Bernanke sooner rather than later?
Let's go to Dan on that.
I mean, I believe the president needs to step forward and say, you know what, this incident that occurred last weekend, this incident was shameful. It was beneath us as the American people, and we need to get together and actually do the right things, regardless of our ideologies, to make sure that this is reversed.
Is this the gift that keeps on giving for a re-election mode White House?
You know, it's very interesting because you look at the other side, and it seems to me that at the end of the day, the question is to whom is the blame assigned, right? The White House is obviously going to be screaming that the blame should be assigned to the other side, albeit the Obama White House may actually say, well, let's just all take the blame together. But at the end of the day, they should be saying what they... Yeah, it's like, well, that's what he did to Boehner the other night in the press conference, if you recall.
What's your GDP estimate for this quarter, quickly, Dan?
Well, I don't think we're going to see much more than something between 0.8 and a point. I'm not
so
very...
you're grim.
Going
Dan Alpert.